and to have a relationship with His Son, Jesus Christ. If we can help you in any way, please do not hesitate to call upon us. Last week, we are beginning, for the last month, we have been looking at the subject of marriage. And last week, we began a study talking about sailing the 7 seas of marriage. And we were looking at some different aspects of marriage. Many barriers and obstacles must be avoided in the marriage relationship in order to make it a happy and harmonious relationship. By doing so, we will have safe passage. And setting the godly pattern, we will give the best example to our children and to society and those who know us in what God had designed for a godly home and a godly marriage. Proper application of these divine principles will allow smooth sailing in your marriage. And so what we're trying to do is give you some helps in what will help in your relationship as man and wife, that you can have a good relationship that will be everything that God designed it. And so we're going to look at 7 principles this morning that can help you accomplish that goal. First one, of course, is communication. In 1 Peter chapter 3, in verse number 7, 1 Peter 3 and verse 7, we read, "Husbands likewise dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as to the weaker vessel, and being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers might not be hindered." And so, dwell with wives with understanding. Men and women are different. Women have different emotional needs. They have different ways that they look at things. They're very sensitive, and that's not a bad thing. They're just a weaker vessel emotionally. Lines must always be kept open. We must always communicate about things that affect our relationship, about work, about intimacy, about children, about discipline, about budgets, about money. We must always keep the lines open to discuss these matters. Respect her mind, respect her opinion, her feelings and her emotions. You are a team, you work together. You do not try, it's not an adversarial relationship. You must look after each other's needs. You must consider whatever affects the marriage affects both of you. It doesn't just affect one, it affects both. So both must have input and both must talk to one another. We must talk to our companion. We need to talk to her. We need to get through any obstacles that we're having, any problems that we're having. We don't let them escalate. We don't let them build. We don't build walls, and we don't allow things to be ignored. We sit down and we open-mindedly, considering the other person, we communicate the things that we want our partner to know and things that will help in the relationship if there are problems. The weaker vessel, that does not mean she's inferior. That means she's more emotional, she's more fragile. Husbands, we must watch how we speak to her, the tone of our voice, how we address her, and that we must not vent. Because we've had a bad day at work, you don't come home and vent at your wife. You don't take it on her. She's not a working post. We need to be kind and considerate, and we need to consider her feelings. Silly talk. It may be silly to men, but it means something to our wives. Wives need to be told that they're loved. They need to be told when they go to make an extra attempt to make themselves beautiful to us. We must acknowledge that. We must in some way acknowledge our thanks for the effort that they make to do things, a meal, a special meal that she might make, or making a special dinner, or making special plans for the two of you. We must be thankful, and that may be silly to us, but it means a lot to a woman. And so this goes back to our understanding, dwelling with them according to knowledge. We need to learn how we can appreciate and demonstrate and show and speak that appreciation. Communication. We will look at this subject in the next lesson when we will look at it by itself. Next, we need to be concerned. In Matthew 5, verse 22 through 33, and we've discussed these verses in other lessons where we went through the entire text that tells the roles of man and woman. We need to be concerned. we need to be concerned with our mate, and we need to be concerned to satisfying each other's needs, emotionally, physically, intimacy, and we also need to look at her concerns of what she needs to have safety, have security, things to, how she knows that she's loved. We need to be concerned about that. We keep each other happy. That's job number one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you seek, number one, to keep your mate happy, and their job number one is to seek to keep you happy, that's going to be a harmonious relationship. If we look out for the other needs ahead of our own, and you can read that in Philippians chapter 2, verses 2 through 5, you can make that application even in a marriage relationship, that we should look to their interest and their needs above our own, and when each party is doing that, is going to make a happy relationship. Tickle their fancy, find if there are things that they appreciate, if things that they like, there's things that, you know what, if he likes a certain food, if he likes you to wear certain things, if he likes you to wear your hair in a certain way. Again, not taking away your personality, not taking away your choice, but there are things that you can do that make him very appreciative. You should do them, ladies, and we as men should do that for our wives in order that we can help one another in the things, and that's one way why you communicate, to find out what those things are, and time and experience will tell you what those things are too. Safety. You know what? Most families have two cars. Don't give her the old jalopy that's about to fall apart. That doesn't give her much security. Demonstrate that you're concerned that she's okay and she's well when she's away from you. And when she's by herself, you want her to feel secure and safe. And so we should do everything we can to demonstrate that we're concerned for her safety and security and provide things that demonstrate that. We need not to be rude. Again, this goes back to something I said earlier. We don't vent. We don't come home and vent on our wives. We don't vent with our husband because we've got a bad day at home. We learn not to be rude. We need to be kind in our speech. Colossians 4 says that we need to have our speech seasoned with salt. We need to be kind in the way that we talk to one another. We need to be clean. Wives and mothers, they go to great lengths to keep the house clean, keep the laundry caught up. Husbands shouldn't just come in and throw their clothes anywhere and expect their wife to pick up after them like they're a little boy. We need to be concerned. She keeps the floors clean. She keeps the carpet clean. Don't come in with muddy feet. We need to be concerned. We need to be appreciative. We need to do those little things. She does those things for us, and we should help her be able to accomplish those things. Love each other in action. You know, you can tell your wife all day long that you love her, but she's going to believe it if it's backed up by action. If we love her, it's going to be demonstrated in the way we speak to her, the way we treat her, how we interact with her, how much time we spend with her, the things that we do. If we love her, then it should be expressed. And one of the greatest ways to express love for your mate is to be concerned about the things that she needs in her life in order to give her the things that make her happy. Cooperation. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 1 through 7, it talks about cooperating. Likewise, wives, be submissive to your own husbands, and even if some do not obey the word, they without a word may be won by the conduct of their wives. When they observe your chaste conduct accompanied by fear, do not let your adornment be merely outward, arranging the hair, the wearing of gold, or putting on fine apparel. Rather, let it be the hidden person of the heart, with an incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of God. And so we need cooperation. You know, the Bible says that when man was alone, he needed a helpmeet. And the helpmeet means one that is suitable. So when the woman was created for man, she was to be his helpmeet. It's one that's suitable. And we're going separate ways, it leads to drifting. We must remember we are two individuals, but we're trying to make this one unit. And we're trying to function as a unit, as a partnership. And we can't do that if we're both going our own direction. Too many times people drift in their marriages. They drift because they become involved in their own lives and don't consider their mate, and don't consider their husband, and don't consider their wife. And over a period of time, they can drift. this can easily happen. One of the ways it can happen is with our children. You know, mothers are going to be with them more, and so we can't allow, and mothers should not allow, their children to consume them to such an extent that they forget about their husband. And husbands should not expect their wives to take on all the responsibility of the children. You have responsibility too. And so that must be a shared responsibility, but you do not get so consumed with your children that you forget about each other, because that's going to cause a drifting in the marriage. Marriage needs direction. There's got to be a head. There's got to be one who's going to make the decision. It's like that way in every corporation, in any institution. You have people who are in charge. And so in the marriage relationship, God gave the headship to men. And again, that doesn't mean that he should be a dictator or he should be a bully. And it doesn't mean that he shouldn't consider his wife and shouldn't consider her feelings and her desires and her thinking, but just means somebody's got to make a decision. And when that decision is made, the both need to work together to implement that decision. Understand and appreciate each other's role. Husbands need to appreciate the role of their wives. As their wife, as a mother to their children, they need to appreciate that. They need to talk about that. They need to demonstrate it. And they need to thank her for it. And they need to help her in it, that she can do it even better. We must be biblically correct instead of politically correct. I know in the feminist movement in our country, women look at marriage as being inferior, that she's a second-class citizen, that she's a doormat. Such thinking is contrary to God's will. That's not what marriage is about. That's just man's wisdom that does not equal God's wisdom. And so we must make the woman feel appreciated. And when we make her feel appreciative, and when we cooperate together, then she's going to feel like her feelings and her opinions and her thinking are valuable, and that's going to make a stronger bond and a deeper love one for another. Commitment. In Matthew chapter 19, Jesus said, whatever God has joined together, let not man put asunder. This is a lifetime commitment. Marriage is not a trivial thing. It's not something that you just get into and try out and see how it works. And it's not something that you just do it at the spur of the moment. Marriage is something you need to think long and hard about. It's something that you must give everything in you to your mate, and they must do the same to you if you're going to make this relationship work. And so it takes a commitment. It takes a dedication of both man and woman. It's a lifetime duty and commitment. We're supposed to grow old together. We're supposed to be in those rocking chairs and our hair growing greater and thinner. And we're supposed to be there. And the kids leave the nest and we have the empty nest again. All those things are stages of our lives, and that's what God had designed when he designed the relationship of marriage. And so we must understand that this is a lifetime duty and a lifetime commitment. God joined us. He's the only one that can disjoin us. And as we've studied in other lessons, there's only two reasons that should happen. Number one, of course, is death. Death severs the bond where the relationship is broken. But the only other cause that God gives for separating a marriage is for the cause of sexual immorality or adultery. And again, it doesn't have to, but it is the option of the one who has been sinned against. And so it is something that God holds very sacred. Cannot divorce at will, and we need to work out our problem. Malachi 2, we said that God hates divorce. He did then, he still does today. Romans chapter 2 says it is a lifetime commitment until death do us part. Marriage is going to have problems. There's going to be things that come up. There's going to be problems with money. There's going to be problems with the children. There's going to be problems in our relationship. There's going to be problems with time. There's going to be problems with sickness. And there's just a host of things that are going to come up in a matter of a lifetime. But when these problems come up, we don't run from them, we don't ignore them, and we don't look at them from a one-sided position, but we get input from both parties, and then we do what is best to solve the problem. But you don't run from your problems. Divorce is not a solution. Divorce cannot be looked at as a solution. You shouldn't think about it, you shouldn't talk about it, you should even never consider it. It's something that is only going to cause pain and suffering for many people, even though more involved than just the husband and wife. It's It's going to affect the children. It's going to affect your parents. It's going to affect people who love you, your family. It's going to affect society. And so we work on our problems. And how we do that is we learn that it is a commitment. If you don't want to stay with the person you're with for life, then don't get married. If you can't see yourself with that person for the rest of your life, then don't marry. Because if you go into this relationship with any less of a commitment than that, then you do inevitably to fail. And so we must respect this commitment. Courtship. 1 Corinthians 7:32. What did you do to win her heart? You know, a lot of us, when we first dated our wife, we were very kind. We gave her flowers. We opened the door for her. We commented about how well she looked, how pretty she was. And we were just falling over ourselves to do everything we could to put our best foot forward in order to win her heart as she won our heart. And she did the same thing to win our heart. Well, what happens after we have the vows and after we exchange rings? Do we forget about all those things? Does it stop after the vows and after the honeymoon? When you come back from your honeymoon, do you just get into life and you forget about all those things that you did to win your mate and all the things that you did to show appreciation and to show respect for them? Did you just forget about all that and think, well, that's silly stuff. We don't need to do that anymore. We've been together all these years. You know, it's like a fellow once said, his wife complained that he never told her that he loved her. He said, I told you I loved you when I married you, and if I change my mind, I'll let you know. No, that's the wrong attitude. We need to be constantly doing the things that won her heart to begin with in order that we keep it. And she must be reciprocal in that in order that we maintain the fire and the desire and the strength of the marriage, and it should mean more as time goes on, and it should be stronger as time goes on. Anniversaries. Husband, do you know what your anniversary is? Do you always remember? Do you give her a card? Do you send her flowers? Do you give her candy? Do you take her out for dinner? You ever do that? Oh, that's silly, is it? Is it silly? Is it silly to remember the day that God blessed you with this woman or with this man? Shouldn't that be something you should celebrate? And if that means something to your wife, shouldn't you acknowledge that? Same way with Valentine's Day. Oh, that's for kids. That's for young people in love. Is it? Is it? Is it something that we should just stop doing after we're together for a few years? Now, you and your mate could talk and say, you know, I'd rather do this or do that, or I'd rather you remember this or that than now. If there's an agreement, that's fine. But this is a way of keeping the love afire, and this is a way of keeping the love acknowledged. And so it's not silly, but it's something that if your wife is something that she appreciates, and husbands, that's something we need to do. What about her birthday? Do you remember her birthday? Do you give her a break on her birthday? Do you take her out to dinner? Do you plan a special time that you and her can go and just be together? Or is that just one day among another day? And then you're eating dinner at night and you're getting ready to go to bed, and she's been waiting all day for you to acknowledge that it was her birthday, and you never said anything about it. The whole day went by, you never acknowledged it, never said anything. Husbands, we need to be understanding that those little things can mean a lot of good things in a marriage. It demonstrates that she is something that's special to you. And again, these are things that will help strengthen the bond of love that exists between the man and the wife. Date. You ever go on a date? Oh, we're too old to date. Really? You're too old to date? You're too old to set aside a time for you and your wife to go out to dinner, maybe go to a movie, if you can find a good one today, or to go out and do something that she likes to do. Maybe she likes to shop. Maybe there's something that the house needs, and you plan a special day so you can go out and do that together. That's a good thing. That keeps the relationship alive. That's something that will help cement and help the love and the respect grow in the relationship. Now, those are things that each couple must work out for themselves. But all these things can help us in making this marriage not only last, but be happy fulfilling marriage. Companionship. Woman makes man complete. God said man was incomplete without her. God said that. Man didn't say that. God said that. No other of God's creation could share the greatest joys and the deepest sorrow that exist in life than a marriage, than your companion. She's your companion. She's there to help you. You're there to help her. You're there to support each other. Together makes a powerful team. This is the most intimate relationship on earth. It's closer than parents and children. It's closer than any other relationship on earth. This is the closest physical and spiritual relationship on earth. And it's very genuine, it's very deep, and it's very emotional. And so we must give it time. We must do things in order to strengthen the bond. We must do things that help this companionship to grow and to be more precious as time goes on. But to do that, you're going to have to expend time and effort, and you're going to have to be considerate, and you're going to have to be concerned, and you're going to have to communicate, and you're going to have to do all the things that we've been talking about here in order to make this relationship strong, vibrant, and to last. The spouse knows us the best. She should know us the best. Who should know me better than my wife? Who should know my wife better than me? We should have the best interest of our mate, and we should know them. The more that we know them, the better the marriage can be. The better they know us, the better we know them. That's how we make this companionship work in order to bring it everything that God intended for it to do. You see, this should be something that grows stronger over time, not grows weaker, not means less, it should be more. And so, but it can't if you don't work at it, if you don't give it time, if you don't give it effort, then it's just going to crumble. And so we need to spend the time to make this companionship stronger. What if they were gone tomorrow? Sadly, too many spouses learn this truth the hard way. They take their mate for granted, and then something happens. They get sick, there's an accident, there's a tragedy, and then they're gone. And then you're left alone. And that's when it hits you how important your companion was. Do not live with that regret. Don't let that happen to you. Make sure you understand the value of your companion while they are with you. And make sure they know that. And so when one does part, the other knows that it is a loss because they knew how much you meant to them. And so, again, don't learn this lesson the hard way. Children. Marriage is where a home is made. God gave the institution of marriage in order to create homes and to bring children into the world. Children are a blessing from God. Hannah prayed in 1 Samuel chapter 1 that she would have a child, and she said if God would grant her request, she would give him back to God. Well, I'm telling you that God wants all of us to give our children back to him. They are a blessing from God. They are a heritage, and God wants it back. And we do that by bringing them up and training them in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, Ephesians 6, verses 1 through 4. And we train them, and we bring them up. It's real work. You're not going to train good children by accident. You're going to have to take time and effort. They're going to consume a lot of our time, a lot of our energy. And that is our responsibility. That's our duty. And we must work together. Both men and women, both husband and wife, mother and father must work together in order to train the child. We must be on the same page. We can't work against one another. When we agree on something, when we agree that this is a rule or regulation, and when they break that there's a punishment, then we must all, both of you must be on the same page. You can't undo something your husband did, because then your child's always going to go to you because you're seen as a way out, a loophole out of what has already been determined. You must work together. And to do that, you're going to have to spend time and energy, and you're going to have to talk. Teach our children about marriage. Where are they going to learn about marriage? They're going to learn about it watching us. They're going to learn about marriage by how they watch us conduct ourselves in our marriage. The greatest teaching tool of marriage for your child is your own marriage. We must continue to nurture our marriage at the same time. Many people make the mistake of getting so immersed in the life of their children that they forget about their life with each other. And then when the children finally grow up and they leave home, and now it's mom and dad again, there's nothing there. There's nothing to nurture, there's nothing to build on, because it has been forgotten, and we're like two strangers living in the same house. Yeah, it's a juggling act. Yeah, it's a balancing act. And you're going to have to talk, you're going to have to communicate, and you're going to have to work at it, but it can be accomplished if you both work together. And children are never given in a relationship to make the marriage weaker. It is to make it stronger by our commitment one to another. Now, in closing this morning, how smooth is your sailing? How is your marriage doing? Have you avoided the barriers that we talked about, these 7 barriers that we talked about? Or are you fighting against God by not paying attention to the responsibilities and duties that God gave you in this relationship? Proper application will make stronger and happier marriages. God did not intend marriage to be looked at as being unhappy. He did not intend for it to be looking at something that we can't get out of and that we are discouraged in. But when we are in this relationship, it takes work, effort, and time and energy in order to make it work, to make it happy, to nurture it, to stoke the fires, and to make sure that it lasts for the lifetime that God intended for it to. Remember, your children are watching. Whatever you're doing, good or bad, indifferent, your children are watching you as you go through this relationship. You're teaching them about the finer points of marriage. And so what are you teaching your children? Do they see a loving, nurturing relationship? Are you on the same page? Do you show respect? Do you show admiration? Do you demonstrate love? Or do you just talk about it? Again, these attributes that we've looked at, these 7 C's that we've discussed, if you put them to practice, they will make a happy, loving, lasting, fulfilling marriage. Sailing the 7 C's of marriage. I hope that you will take God's direction and you'll take God's viewpoint, because it will make your marriage happier, sustaining, and more fulfilling.